Patrick Waugh has made a line combination change in anticipation of tonight's game against the New York Rangers. We'll talk about what it is and which player has a big opportunity as a result. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. We have got a lot to discuss. Big game tonight against the New York Rangers. But first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you can email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we are happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Big game tonight. They're all big. 5 games left on the schedule, but are there any games bigger than the Islanders and the New York Rangers? That just adds more to it. And it's a 7 o'clock Eastern time start on this game tonight. And you could hear every minute of the game with the Islanders hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Go to the SXM app and do a search for Islanders. But ahead of this game, Patrick Waugh making an announcement that the Islanders are making a couple of lineup changes. And I think these are, well, let's just say pretty interesting. First of all, looks like Semyon Varlamov will get the start in goal, according to Patrick Waugh. I think that is the right move. Varley being the hot hand right now, and you've got to ride the hot hand. I mean, let's face it, between you, me, and the lamppost, there is no way that the New York Islanders beat the Nashville Predators Saturday night without the outstanding play of Varley. But then, while no players are out of the lineup who are in the lineup, they are switching the line combinations at practice on Monday. The first line remained the same, Bo Horvat centering Casey Cizikas and Matthew Barzal. But the fourth line, by the way, also the same, Kyle McLean, Matt Martin, Cal Clutterbuck. But the second and third lines, a little switcheroo here by Patrick Waugh. Still have Brock Nelson centering, Kyle Palmieri still to his right, but to the left on the second line, Simon Holmstrom. And then the third line, Pajot centering Lee and Pierre Engvall. And I think this is an interesting idea. I think Holmstrom has been playing better as of late, and I give him a lot of credit. And, you know, he scored that big goal a couple of games back. That was certainly a plus. And, you know, he's been shooting the puck a little bit more, working a little bit harder, doing some of those little things that he needs to take his game to the next level. And I still think with Simon Holmstrom, he has the talent, the raw ability. But for him still, and this is, got to remember, only his second full NHL season, but part of it is confidence. And I think, this is an opportunity. Patrick Roy is basically saying to Holmstrom, I have confidence in you. And here's what Roy said after practice on Monday, as reported by the Hockey News. Since we healthy scratched him, he's been playing good hockey. Sometimes you feel like you have to try different things. I love the way he was handling the puck, the way he was moving the puck, and the plays that he made. So I thought it'd be good to create a bit of a spark on that line. I mean, with Nelson and Palmieri, he's got speed like Pierre, and I just thought it would be great to try different things. I love trying things. So that was one of the reasons, but it was a huge block he made at the end. I mean, that was probably one of the key moments in that game. So, look, I don't think anybody has any illusions about Pierre Engvall being a second-line player on a good team. His numbers certainly do not add up to being a second-line player. He's fine as a third or fourth line player, but Engvall, a second line player, should be getting you 20 plus goals. Or, if it's a guy like, Adam Oates, let's say, where he's only going to get you 15 goals, but he'll get you a lot of assists. Or like Matthew Barzal was before, the last few years, where, yeah, he's not a 20 goal guy. He's a 15, 18 goal guy, but he'll get you 45, 50 assists. That would be fine. But that's not what Pierre Engvall is. And it's not that he can't be a useful player in the NHL, but he's not a top six forward on a good team. Now, Simon Holmstrom, in my mind, right now, hasn't proven himself to be a top six forward. I don't think that, that is where he's at right now. But I think he has more upside than Pierre Engvall does. And if I want to take it a step further, I think over the last 3 games or so, he has shown a little bit more. Not that he's going to all of a sudden be this, sniper on the second line, but he does have speed, which is really Engvall's primary asset. And he also is learning to go to the dirty areas and go to the net and create more opportunities that really, could help this team score some goals. And again, I think Patrick Roy is showing a little confidence in him. And now it's up to Simon Holmstrom to show that he is worthy of that confidence and that he can go out and make an impact for this hockey team. So that is that lineup. Now, what does that do realistically for the third line? I think, quite honestly, it does reduce the offensive potency of the third line a little bit, where now you're really counting on Anders Lee to be the guy to score. JG Pageau, as we know, hasn't been producing as well offensively over the course of the season, even though he does a lot of other things. And then, obviously, Pierre Engvall, he'll get you the 12 to 15 goals a year at most, but he'll give you that speed, and he and Pageau can make speed moves, and then Lee gets in front of the goal for those tips and deflections. So, again, let's see how that plays out for the New York Islanders. It very well may, and if it doesn't, guaranteed, like Patrick Roy said, he loves to try things, and I have very little doubt that if Patrick Roy doesn't feel like it's working, he will move and shuffle those lines, not just after one game, but possibly after a couple of shifts, because, he has to like what he's seeing in order for a line to stay together. So still a lot there, but I think this is a worthwhile chance that Patrick Roy is taking. And again, everydayers, as you know, the Islanders, I've said this before, and I still think it's true, they don't have 6 top 6 forwards on this team. So, shifting some of these guys around and relying on Simon Holmstrom to possibly take that next step forward, that's one way to try to, add a little jump to the second line, and let's see how that works out. We have got a lot more to discuss on today's show. We're going to talk about the playoff race. It is going down to the wire. Plus, we will have a full preview of tonight's game against the Rangers, and we'll have the results of our poll on who should start in goal against the Rangers that we had up on our YouTube page. We've got all that. Oh, yes, and our Islanders birthday of the day. This is a tough one. A player who was with the Islanders in the mid-'80s for parts of 2 seasons. He was a forward. Let's see if you can guess who that is. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So, what are you waiting for? You can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. Hey, check out the odds. Islanders, Rangers. Does it get more exciting than that? Well, it does if you have a little skin in the game. Check out the odds, the props, and all things considering, betting on this on FanDuel. So it's FanDuel.com/lockedon, FanDuel.com/lockedon, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn the volume down with all that shouting? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. That's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, and we're streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel's app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we head into the stretch drive. 5 games left on the schedule. And look, before the season or early in the season, I remember Matthew Barzal basically saying, we don't want to just squeeze into the playoffs again. Well, Barzy, that's the best that this team is able to do this year. But it's still better than barely missing the playoffs. And heading into Monday night's action, the Islanders right now are in 3rd place in the Metropolitan Division. They have 85 points. Detroit has the second wild card with 84 points. Pittsburgh, 83. Washington, 83. Philadelphia, 83. That is an unbelievable situation where you have 5 teams separated by 2 points going for 2 spots. Here's the advantage, though, that the Islanders have. They have a game in hand on Philadelphia, so let's start with that. But the other thing is that if the Islanders have 2 bites at the apple, and that's an advantage over Detroit. Detroit is not going to catch the Tampa Bay Lightning for 3rd place in the Atlantic Division. That's only way that happens is if Tampa Bay loses out and Detroit wins out. So that's just not likely, okay? 5 games left. Could it happen? Maybe. Is it likely to happen? No. If the Islanders can stay ahead of of 2 of Pittsburgh, Washington, and Philadelphia, they will make the playoffs. They cannot be passed by 2 of those teams because one of those teams will win. Is the Islanders, Pittsburgh, Washington, or Philly? One of those teams will finish 3rd in the Metropolitan Division and face what is looking increasingly like the Carolina Hurricanes in the first round of the playoffs. That is looking more and more likely to be the opponent. The Rangers right now, 5 points ahead of Carolina. Each team has 4 games to go. But Detroit can only realistically make the playoffs as the second wild card, whereas the Islanders can finish third in the Metro or be the second wild card. So they have an extra way of getting into the playoffs. And, this is going to go down to the wire. And I'll add this. I think the Islanders need to go back to basics. Against Nashville on Saturday, they played more of a Barry Trotz style of hockey against Barry Trotz's current team. He is the general manager of the Preds. And I think overall, it remains the best way for this team to play. It's what they did down the stretch last year after the injury to Matthew Barzal. And, they kind of clamped down and were able to make the playoffs with a strong finish because they went back to basics. They kept it simple, stupid, and they ended up with a nice, strong finish. Well, they're going to need that again this year in order to make the playoffs. And I think, getting that really good goaltending is going to be vital. And look, there's 5 games left. I think you win a minimum of 3 of them. You get 6 points in these last 5 games. I think you have a good shot. You get 7 points. I think you're in. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. You got 2 games against the Rangers, and then you have in between, those 2 games sandwiched is a game Thursday against the Canadiens, and then you close out the season against the Devils and the Penguins. 4 of the final 5 games are against division opponents and big rivals, and then you have 3 games against non-playoff teams as of now, but at the same time, the Devils are still mathematically alive. The Penguins are certainly alive. It is all going to go down to the wire. And would you, based on where we were 2 weeks ago, would you have it any other way? I don't think so. So here we are. And it is going to come down to the wire. We wanted to talk about our poll. And as I mentioned, Patrick Waugh indicated that Semyon Varlamov will start tonight's game against the Rangers. And again, it's a 7 o'clock Eastern time start. And you can catch every minute of the game on SiriusXM with the Islanders hometown broadcast. Just go to the SXM app and do a search for Islanders. But we had 192 voters and 81% of you, so basically 4 out of 5, said that you would rather see Semyon Varlamov get this start against the Rangers at UBS Arena over Ilya Sorokin. It was 81% to 19% in this one. And hey, if you still want to vote, please feel free. You can see the results on our YouTube page for this podcast. And but I agree. I think Varlamov is the right choice. You ride the hot hand with time running out in the season. And I think also it has to do with this. Patrick Waugh played, coached Semyon Varlamov when the 2 of them were in Colorado. And I think there is a little bit more trust between those 2 than there is right now between Sorokin and Waugh. And I think part of it also is the fact that Sorokin has been a little less consistent since Patrick Waugh took over as coach. He's had some very good games. He's had his struggles. And again, I don't think that Sorokin is a bad goalie. He just hasn't been grade A Ilya Sorokin. And part of it is the number of shots he took. Mid-season, what did he play? 13, 14 games in a row when Varley was hurt. I think he got a little bit worn down. So Right now there is no margin for error. If you've got to win, if you need 7 points in your last 5 games minimum to make the playoffs, I think you really have to ride the hot hand. And right now, that is Semyon Varlamov. We have got more to get to on today's show. We will preview tonight's game against the New York Rangers, plus our Islanders birthday of the day. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Regardless of where we are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Varlamov, McDavid, or McKinnon will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Islander fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available in the free Fire TV channels app. Islanders, Rangers, home game for the Isles, 7 o'clock Eastern time tonight. And this, folks, is a biggie. Make no mistake about it. The Rangers not going to let their foot off the gas. They're trying to win the President's Trophy, clinch the division, get home ice advantage throughout the playoffs. They're in a battle right now with Carolina for first place and with the Boston Bruins for first in the East. So they're not going to be laying off anytime soon. They are a top 10 team in both goals scored and goals against, 6th in the league in goals, 8th in goals against. And their special teams are very strong. Top 5, 4th on the power play, 26.4%. 3rd on the PK, 83.6%. I'm telling you all right now, if the Islanders do not stay out of the penalty box, they are in trouble. Chris Kreider, 17 power play goals. Mika Zibanejad, 12, 11 for Vincent Trocheck, and 10 for Artemi Panarin. You're talking about these guys all have more power play goals than any Islander. So you got to stay out of the box. Their goaltending, what a duo. Igor Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick, both of them having solid years. Shesterkin got off to a slow start, but he has really picked up his pace. And, Artemi Panarin, 4 goals away from 50 on the season. He has 115 points in 78 games. Chris Kreider needs 2 goals to get to the 40-goal mark for the season. Again, this is not going to be easy, but here's the good news. When you talk about a rivalry like Islanders-Rangers, you throw out the records, you throw out home ice advantage sometimes. This is just sort of the way, hockey, the way it ought to be. Intensity, hard hitting. It is just some great hockey. And the Islanders, they have 2 games left out of their 5 remaining contests. 2 of them are against the Rangers. Got to split them. Got to win at least one. You have a better chance of winning at home in theory. Let's see if they can do it. The line combinations for the Rangers: Zibanejad centering Chris Kreider and Jack Roslovic. The second line, Vincent Trocheck, Artemi Panarin, and Alex Lafreniere, who has had a really strong season. Alex Wenberg, Will Coyle, and Capo Caco are the third line. And then On the fourth line, Johnny Brodzinski is the pivot. Barclay Goodrow to his left, Jimmy Vesey to his right. Ryan Lindgren and the ever-dangerous Adam Fox are the top defense pairing. Keandre Miller and Jacob Trouba, the second pairing. And then on the third pair, you have Eric Gustafsson and Braden Schneider. On defense, in goal, Igor Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick. Blake Wheeler on IR as right now is Philip Cheadle. But I'm telling you, the Rangers have speed. They have skill. If the Islanders do not play a tight defensive game, if they fail to clear the zone, if they retreat the way they do when they're struggling and give skilled players like Zibanejad and Panarin and Trocheck time and space to enter the zone with speed, they're going to be in trouble. That is going to be vital to the Islanders' success in this game. And also stay out of the box. Do not let that power play, which is so dangerous, have golden opportunities to give the Rangers a lead or extend the lead for the Rangers. It is going to be vital. And again, no margin for error here with 5 teams battling for 2 spots and just 3 points separating those 5 teams. All right, time now for our Islanders' birthday of the day. And this is a tough one because here's a player from the mid-'80s who played a grand total of 18 career NHL games, all of them with the New York Islanders. But basically, today is the 64th birthday of former Islanders center Scott Howson, the Toronto native, 5'11", 160 pounds, undrafted. But, he was a great minor league guy, had a 55-goal, 120-point season for the Toledo Gold Diggers of the IHL. Had back-to-back 34-goal seasons for the Islanders Farm Club, the Indianapolis Checkers of the CHL in the early to mid-'80s, but only got 2 call-ups to the Islanders in 84-85, 8 games, 4 goals, 5 points, 2 penalty minutes. And then in 85-86, 10 games, 1 goal, 3 points, 2 penalty minutes. Here's a guy who was prolific in the minors, who put up some pretty decent numbers when he was with the Islanders, but never really stuck, and maybe his lack of size had something to do with it. His best game as an Islander, January 22nd, 1985, a home game at the Nassau Coliseum. The Detroit Red Wings are the visiting team. Corrado Miaclef is the goalie for Detroit. Billy Smith, the goalie for the Islanders. And our Islanders' birthday of the day, Scott Howson, scores his first career NHL goal, 8 minutes and 52 seconds into the game. Dave Langevin with the assist on that one. And then in the third period, he gives the Islanders a 4-3 lead with his second goal, 5 minutes and 4 seconds in. Bobby Nystrom with the assist on that. But Reed Larson tied it for Detroit, and John Ogrodnik won it for Detroit with Ron Duguay and Reed Larson getting the assist. Islanders lose this one by a final score of 5-4. But for Scott Howson, he had the 2 goals on 2 shots, both at even strength, and he was a +1. So Scott Howson is our Islanders' birthday of the day. 2 of his 5 career NHL goals coming in this game. He is 64 years old today, and we wish him all the best. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow on the show, we'll have our key takeaways from tonight's big game against the New York Rangers. Hopefully, some good news coming out of this game. We will keep you posted. We'll also have our weekly farm report. And if you want some mailbag questions, we'll get to those on Thursday. So please send them in to us now. I have a couple already, but we want to add a few more if we can. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.